Right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I think it's just 7 o'clock, so we will get started. First of all, item 1, apologies for absence.
None received, Chairman.
Unreceived, no. Okay. Item 2, declarations of interest. Anybody? Silence reigns. Item 3, minutes of the meeting on the 27th of November. Can we approve those as a true and correct record? All those in favour? That's unanimous. Okay. So, we're on to our first substantive item, page 11. Item 4, the Glendale Golf Annual Report. Although I will be going to Mr. Birch, but I'll just formally welcome Tom Brook and Luke Kulaluka to the meeting. So welcome to you both. Over to Darryl Birch if you want to introduce the item.
Okay, thank you, Chair. As members are probably aware, this is the annual report of Glendale Golf and their subcontractor Lex Leisure, and it runs for the period January through to December 2018. As you just said, I'm delighted to be joined by Tom and Luke. As you can see, they have a presentation ready, and then we'll be happy to answer any questions after that presentation. Contract has been running for 17 years, is due to expire in 2025. Performance is measured both through monthly meetings and quarterly strategic catch-ups. In fact, we had our quarterly one this afternoon. We also carry out random inspections at different times, and that is to measure cleanliness, course standards, satisfaction, and our overall first impressions when we arrive there. It should be noted, and I'm sure Tom and Luke are going to be covered, that nationally golf is on the decline. You will see our usage figures are slightly down compared to last year. That's not been helped. Members will recall the beast from the east, when the golf course was covered in snow for a number of days, and also an incredibly hot summer as well. What we're pleased to note is the club is also looking to utilise the venue and the building for non-golf activities. We've seen a number of weddings, wakes, parties and other activities, which again, Tom and Luke will update you on. One of the things in the report we're really pleased to see is over 300 juniors attending golf lessons now. During the year, Simon Williams, who many of you remember, used to manage the centre and has now left, helped develop and support the golf club membership, and that's seen an overall increase in member satisfaction around the condition of the course and also around the catering service and general customer services. So without wanting to steal too much of their thunder, I'm going to hand over to Tom and Luke for the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Feel free to continue
Luke,
stealing our thunder.
Right hand side.
Who's driving the... Who's got the controls? Shall we? There we go. Okay, so here we are again. Doesn't feel like 12 months ago. But, it never does. It never does. I think I've met most of you in previous years. These have gradually got more pleasant as we've gone through the years and made some improvements to the centre.
Would you like us to change that?
That will continue. Absolutely not. Let's make sure that continues. So just really opening introduction from myself, then I'll hand over to Luke for the majority of this year's presentation. For those of you who I've not met, my name's Tom Brooks. I'm Managing Director for Glendale Golf. We manage the Everton golf course contract, and we're part of the overall Parkwood group. We also manage 6 other golf centres nationally, all on behalf of local authorities. Apart from Richmond Park Golf Course, which we manage on behalf of the Royal Parks in London. So just a brief overview of the sort of key personnel changes we've made at Everton over the last few months. So as Darryl alluded to, Simon Williams, who was our centre manager for about 2.5 years, I believe, left the company at the end of December. He's downgraded and gone to Sherwood Forest Golf Club, so really disappointing for him. But wish him all the best. And we made a number of really key improvements while Simon was there, notably the improved relationship with the golf club and gradual improvements to the overall quality of the golf course and the clubhouse offering amongst the whilst we completed the improvement programme over the last couple of years, which was part of the contract extension. We spent £50,000 on golf course and clubhouse improvements. it made sense to bring Luke in and extend sort of Luke's responsibilities. Being part of the Parkwood Group, we're able to sort of utilise that partnership and secure a more efficient relationship with the leisure contracts. So we're really now benefiting from Luke's leisure management experience, and Luke oversees all of the leisure centres in Rushcliffe as well as Edwalton Golf Course now. So whilst Luke isn't a golfer, he's brought in his extensive leisure management experience, and we're already benefiting from an improved relationship with the leisure centres, with the marketing and the benefits that leisure centre members can now get at the golf course. So I think that's really aided the overall offering as well as the client relationship as well. And what we've done is appoint an operations manager at Edwalton to oversee the day-to-day running of the centre. She's Jordan Hine, who's been with us a couple of years and doing a fantastic job. So Jordan's going to be a really fantastic benefit to the business, and Jordan will be able to learn a lot from Luke. So yes, as Darren had already mentioned, golf industry continues to remain a challenge. It's stabilised over the last couple of years, but still a long way off where it was 10 or 15 years ago, and quite frankly will never be back at that level, and that's something that we're always battling against. What we have to do is be more innovative, we have to be a lot more community focused, and we have to think a lot more broadly about our overall offering. And Luke will talk about that a bit more in the slides to come. National usage trends last year, quarter 1 to 3, were down on prior year, largely due to the weather and the beast for the east, which I hope we don't have to talk about too much. But then when the weather was better in quarter 4, and certainly in the first 2 months of this year, it's not the weather, it's because we're doing a great job. So the sun's shining, but it's not just that, it's because we're doing a great job. But it has been a really, really positive start to the year. I was out on the golf course today, and it's quite frankly, it's in the best condition I've ever seen it, and it's only early March, so we should be in for a great year. So yes, that is where we are. I think it's worthy of note that we continue to face significant challenge from other sectors of the golf industry. So when Edwalton first opened as a public golf course, it was very much there as a public golf offering, and the other end of the market from the private and proprietary sectors of the market, and that's not the case anymore. The private sector of the market, the proprietary offerings now are a lot cheaper, they're a lot more accessible, so we're under increasing pressures from other golf courses in the local area. But that's nothing unusual, that's a trend across the board. But that's why very much we're focusing on continued community engagement and looking to diversify our operation. So I'll hand over to Luke, and he'll talk you through that.
Tom, sorry, can I just ask you, just because while it was topical, you were talking about the trend of golf.
Yes.
And saying it's never going to get better, but essentially, stereotypically, golf is somebody for retired people,
Yes.
Stereotypically.
Yes.
And there are more retired people around, so why is it never going to increase again?
Well, I think I'd say it's never going to increase. It's never going to get back to where we were at the turn of the century. I mean, we've been battling this for 10 years. Essentially, the market created itself for itself. We built 30% more golf courses in the 90s, and participation increased by about 15 to 20% up to the turn of the century, and then dipped. So no sooner had we finished building all of these new golf courses, farmers in their hundreds built golf courses in the 90s, off the back of an R&A report that said we needed more golf courses. But instead of building 200 as they recommended, we built 650, as you do. So then participation kind of grew a bit as we anticipated it to. So we've effectively, if you look at the increase in supply versus the decrease in participation over the last 10 years, we've effectively had somewhere between a 30 to 40% swing on the supply and demand equilibrium from the turn of the century.
Right.
So it's a lot more than just the 20% participation piece. I think over time things will change, and golf has to change. It's not just that we have to do more things to encourage people to play golf, we have to change golf. It's not an 18-hole game anymore. It always will be an 18-hole game for retired folk, but when you haven't got as much time on your hands, and the big change actually in dynamic over the last 10 years isn't in that category. It's in the 30 to 50-year-old category, where, and I'm perfectly in the middle of that. Where we used to go and play golf on a Saturday morning and disappear at, before breakfast and come back just before tea, family dynamics have changed, and that doesn't happen anymore. So it's actually that demographic that golf has lost, because we can't afford that time anymore, and we're spending time with families at weekends instead of playing golf.
Yeah.
So golf needs to change desperately and become a more family-orientated game, and we're doing a lot around that at Ed Walton, but it's going to take a long time to turn that tide.
Okay.
So hopefully that answers.
Yeah. Sorry. Thanks for that.
No,
Sorry,
not at all.
sorry
It's a useful
to
question.
interrupt you, Luke. So carry on.
No, not at
No
all.
problem.
Not at all.
Good evening, my name's Luke Colaluca. I'm sure most of you are used to me popping up in November. Just to forewarn you, you might have me twice this year. So the format of the presentation very similar to leisure, and we'll kick off with the Ed Walton Golf Centre highlights. Tom's already mentioned the knock-on effect from the Beast from the East that affected sort of January through to April's performance at the start of 2018. We had a really strong autumn and closing season. We've installed a new irrigation system, which particularly helped us throughout the hot summer we had in 2018. Also a new tractor to help the greenkeepers get around the extensive grounds. And it's fair to say we've had some really good feedback on the course already this year. So I think a lot of the hard work that the greenkeepers put in last year is starting to pay dividends. We've had a full redecoration of the clubhouse, which has certainly improved its appeal. That's reflected in the number of block bookings and non-golf bookings that we've got available at the centre now. We've also launched the new simulator room, so similar to leisure centres where we've installed virtual fitness. We've now converted an old storage room to allow indoor golf sessions, which is proving really popular. As I say, I don't have a golf background, but we started with the link with the national governing body, England Golf, and we met with the coordinator a couple of weeks ago, and we're working on the Get Into Golf initiatives that they've got available for us to promote. We've also appointed a new golf services supervisor, and that's to enhance the coaching and tuition at the centre, which is again proving really fruitful. In terms of the key usage statistics, we had over 38,247 visits to the centre last year. That's a slight decrease, but again that was mainly down to the performance in January, February and March in 2018. We currently have 86 club members, 82 male and 4 female. And we continue to work hard with the club to promote memberships and competitions that they offer. In total, we had over 18,418 rounds of golf in 2018, about 14,500 on the main course and just shy of 4,000 on the par 3. We may look to include the par 3 into the membership benefits for the leisure centres. We're just trying to do a joined up approach there to see how we can make that, how we can facilitate that. But that should hopefully drive people down to the golf club, get used to it, and hopefully boost secondary spend. In terms of range visits, 5,658 range visits, which was up on 2017's performance. A total of 634 golf lessons, which is an increase of about 150 lessons compared to 2017. And the simulators played a key part in helping with the tuition, particularly because if it's raining or it's wet or it's dark, people aren't interested in walking around a golf course. It's much more desirable to play inside in the nice warm environment. Foot golf continues to be on a national decline. We had over 1,025 foot golf bookings last year. Still work to be done on that with local football teams, kids parties, and we do have a link with a stag booking company as well. And very similar to leisure with regards to online performance, certainly on the increase. A total of over 76,000 page views to the Glendale Golf website. Over 1,300 bookings online, which has seen a big increase over the last 12 months. More customers are reaching to book activities through the phone and tablets rather than ringing up centres or turning up. And in terms of social media, quite a strong Facebook following, 795 likes. We aim to improve that over the next 12 months like we have done in leisure, because it's a fantastic way for us to be able to communicate with users of the centre.
Could I ask why you have only 4 female players?
I'm not
What
sure.
are you doing to attract
Yeah.
them?
So what we're planning to do, we have ladies coaching twice a week to aid more people, more females into golf. We will be looking to do what we've done in leisure by supporting the This Girl Can campaign to offer potentially free coaching sessions for females to encourage more female participation in golf. But it's certainly one of our target markets that we're hoping to improve over the next 12 months.
Are they allowed to play any day, or are they discriminated against?
No, not at all. No, 7 days a week, just like any other customer, and that's one thing that we want to obviously try and improve on. That number of 4 is too low, so yeah, the more the merrier as far as we're concerned.
Well, I think it's unacceptably low.
Activity programming, support Ed Walton Golf Club AGMs and monthly meetings. Myself and Tom attended the AGM last month. Jordan's not here tonight because he's meeting the golf club this evening to give updates on the course and updates on what we've been doing. Over centre club competitions and inter-club matches throughout 2018, and we're beginning to promote those on Facebook to help the club raise awareness and increase participation. The number of bookings from Bridge Club, Swimming World, Breathe Easy, Clubber-Size, Boogie Bounce is really important in increasing footfall to the centre. Greater variety of memberships available. We have 5-day, 7-day pay and play memberships, which has improved the accessibility to the golf centre. Wee Nippers junior coaching for ages 4 to 7-year-olds. We've also done kids play free over August bank holidays and Easter foot golf. Snag Golf is delivered as part of Ed Walton Primary School's PE lessons. So over the next 12 months we'll be targeting additional schools in the area to be able to get out and about into the local community. Ladies beginner and intermediate sessions, individual and group coaching sessions. My main remit is to improve the partnership working across the 4 leisure centres in the borough, and a number of weddings held in the clubhouse, particularly in the summer, which have proved really popular and we've had really good feedback on. With regards to marketing campaigns, a whole host of central marketing campaigns, as well as the initiatives that we've been running for junior, ladies only. The social side of golf is a big area that we want to play on, particularly around the par 3 and social access. So over the summer we'll be running the Friday night barbecues again. That was a fantastic way of offering golf plus social aspect over the summer period. We also attended the Lark in the Park outreach event to promote the simulator and golf membership. From meeting England Golf, there was a whole host of methods that they recommended to increase participation for new members. What was reassuring was we were already doing most of those. We just need to fine-tune them and improve that customer journey for new members to integrate them into the club. I've already mentioned the golf simulator, but that storage room was converted in July 2018. It provides coaching all year round in the dry, without getting wet, without being cold. It allows you to play golf on over 10,000 courses worldwide. It also allowed us to create our first Winter League on a Monday evening before Christmas, and Chris, the coach, has been able to offer a number of coaching sessions to members. Part of the January offer for new members that they got free coaching sessions with Chris, and it gives you really key data on pace, speed, accuracy of shots. So it's, again, similar to the virtual fitness in the leisure centres, incredibly popular, and it sets us aside from a number of our competitors. One area that I was pleasantly surprised at, I've obviously only been looking after or involved in the golf club for the last 6 weeks or so. I was pleasantly surprised at the number of functions and events that take place within the golf centre that are available. In 2018, there was over 2,700 visits to functions, and block bookings increased by 1,694 visits compared to 2017. So Simon and the team have worked really hard on increasing usage throughout the week for non-golfing activities. With regards to online performance, 2018 showed an increase of about £3,000 compared to 2017. So what we've been trying to do is get more golfers to book online. It gives them a 5 or 10% discount. And we've had over 1,363 golfers play through the online system. That allows us key data to be able to market to them if we haven't seen them for 3 to 6 months. So again, it's part of encouraging them to come back. 16% still book via the telephone, and 46 customers still turn up. 95% of our online performance is booked through our website, which is encouraging because it shows that they're not coming through third-party search engines where they're getting a discount as well, or a cut of the income. With regards to customer satisfaction, it was pleasing that all the 4 key areas in 2018 outperformed on 2017. Value for money was rated at 78%, customer service at 83%, golf course rating at 70%, and 93% of customers would recommend to a friend. All 4 of those we obviously want to improve in 2019 survey. Lots of ways in which customers can feed back to us. We will be introducing the manager's question times because that's worked really well within the leisure centres. The you spoke, we listened, and the monthly club meetings are going to continue a lot of Simon's good work that he did last year with the golf club. In terms of the membership demographics, this was more for my benefit, so I could understand where the club members lived locally, and it was quite surprising to see that there was people as far out as Eastleigh and Costock, out as far as Towton and Giltbrook. So that, to me, gives us quite a wide target audience to be able to promote the golf course to. Certainly the new housing in Edwalton up near Wheatcrofts, we will be targeting those as well, ready for the season launch in April. And quite rightly, we do need to obviously focus on female participation in golf. With regards to the site upgrades, quite a lot of work done over the last 6 weeks or so. One thing that when we met with the club, it was apparent that the club members weren't quite sure what the greenkeepers were doing. The greenkeepers worked tirelessly in keeping such a big area clean, safe and in shape. So what we've tried to do is create course update posts. You can see Richard with the 2 lawnmowers there. And it gives an update on the work that the greenkeepers have been doing, anything from tree removal to thatching of the greens to resurfacing wood chip. The middle photo there shows the waterlogged route to get onto the driving range. In January, that picture was taken, and obviously from a customer service point of view, golfers having to walk through a big puddle to get to the mats, and then when they come back in the clubhouse and bring all the mud in, not a very nice experience. So we've put down a wood chip path as a route to get onto the mats to obviously prevent mud coming into the clubhouse, and also make the experience better than it was previously. There's more to come on the driving range. We'll be putting picnic benches and creating more of a social environment there. We touched on earlier that time precious, golf people haven't got sort of 2-3 hours to walk around an 18-hole golf course. We think the driving range is quite key to improving the social aspect and getting people into golf over the next 12 months. And I suppose a fresh set of eyes is always able to look at things slightly differently, but as you drive down the path to the golf club, it looks like a council bungalow. There's very little external marketing, so we've got a big simulator sign. We've created some new planter boxes, banners, and we'll be upgrading that over the next coming weeks just to make it more pleasant and obviously promote what goes on within the centre. We're also planning to change the menu. At the minute it's not quite working, so we will be doing a menu launch later in the year as well to make sure that it's fit for purpose and there's more options available to customers. The aims for 2019, very similar to last year: create a vibrant and energetic culture, improve product quality throughout, flexible membership offering, which we're already doing, promote accessibility and community use. increase family golf, beginner golf, improved communications and member journey, and also improve the marketing and sales focus and the synergy with the leisure centres. We'll do that by continuing to monitor trends within the golf industry, improve social media to communicate with users. We've also purchased a defibrillator, which is quite an important part for if we want to offer golf on referral in partnership with the NHS. We already run a successful GP referral scheme within the leisure centres, and there's a recent study involving one around golf, and that's one that we'd like to deliver at some stage in the not too distant future. We've introduced Member of the Month schemes, which again has worked in the gym and for swimming lessons in the leisure centres, and that's just a way of recognising success of people that have been down to the course, played well, or had some coaching, showed improvements, and that should hopefully aid retention. We're soon going to be launching a new initiative called Range Rewards, and that's aimed at anyone that goes down to the driving range. If they get a bucket of balls and a special green one comes out, they can redeem that at the desk for a free tea or coffee, free baguette, free bucket of balls, or maybe a family swim within the leisure centres, and hopefully just improve what's available to customers. Improve the marketing prior to season launch in April 2019. We've done a big piece on that today, which we're hopeful to deliver over the next coming weeks. Good news stories circulated in the local press, so we've signed up to the Refill Rushcliffe, and we're now selling Firmable cups. And build on the positive start already to 2019. January and February performance has been really good so far, so hopefully over the next 12 months we'll deliver a really successful 2019. Does anyone have any questions?
Good, thanks, thank you, Luke. So, any questions, comments? Mr. Plant?
Comments, yes. I think I've been on this committee quite a few years now, and without a doubt, I think congratulations, are in. Well, we should be doing that because, without a doubt, improvements have been made. I think when you think of the state of what the clubhouse used to be, that's about. In terms of golf, obviously, you're the experts, but I'm actually on that. This must be very boring for people. I'm on that golf course 2 or 3 times a week, not playing. I'm walking my dog, and I'm up the north. Not by the clubhouse end, right up at the far end where all the new housing is taking place, And I would agree certainly that it isn't. Golf isn't just for the retired age, without a doubt. But also, it's like spot the golfer. Now I'm up there probably could be 7:30, 8:30 between that time in the morning, and then probably 4:30, 5:30 at night. And I was there. To me, the golf course is a haven of peace. It's a beautiful green space in the middle of housing or whatever. And I think that wasn't last week, the week before, when there was a beautiful frost. It was me and the dog and no one up the top end. So, it's a great pleasure for me to go up there. But one of my questions would be, what is the most popular time that golfers actually are on that course? Now, to be fair, I'm at the top end, not the bottom end. So I don't know about that. And also, my other question would be how long it actually takes if you were doing the whole of the round of golf, because it's only a 9-hole, isn't it? So roughly how long does that take these days? In terms of the other thing I wanted to mention, yes, up by the end that I'm at, and then there's that big the railway line goes along there, but the fencing along there is broken and has been for quite a while. And it's where it really dips down into the gully, which is actually, I think, quite dangerous, but that's just something else. So I can see that without a doubt, it's with the community engagement that we've got to keep that going. And that's also obviously good for the community of West Bridgford, the fact that it's there and it's somewhere else to go and to hire, and that's all to the benefit of our residents. But in terms of when those golfers are actually there, sometimes I just, wonder where they are. Oh, another thing I think this is really good is the fact that in terms of the GP referral scheme, because I think that's a brilliant, I mean, you know, all the links that there's in the papers about, you know, the connection between mental health, physical health, obesity and all of those things. I mean, there's nothing more pleasant than wandering around that golf course with a dog, but also, you know, hitting a ball.
Round of golf, have you?
Well, I mean, you know, it's bound to be good for them. So I think, you know, the more we can get people through GPs to actually get that bit of exercise,
Okay.
get that fresh air, is the best.
Really great, and that's two of the biggest. I'm normally loud enough, so I spend quite a lot of my time shouting. I've got 2 children. Two of the biggest selling points of golf that we have never, as an industry, sold well enough. One is the health aspect and having somewhere between 2 hours for 9 holes to answer your first question. About 2 hours, hour and a half to 2 hours, depending on how fast you walk and how many shots you have to hit. And early to mid-morning is the generally most popular time to tee off, and then in the summer, after work in the evenings as well. So probably not too dissimilar to when you're out on the golf course yourself. But what you've spotted is exactly where the challenge lies, in that there aren't enough people playing golf. Two of the biggest selling points of golf, which we've never grasped, one is the health aspect of being able to walk around beautiful surroundings of a golf course. In fact, I think it was Mark Twain that said golf is a good walk spoilt. And the other aspect is golf is one of the very few sports where people of multiple ages and abilities can actually enjoy the game together without being hindered by the other person's ability or inability. And that's where the family leisure bit comes in, which is where golf has got so much to offer for family leisure and doesn't do at the moment in its current format. But hopefully those answer your questions.
GP referrals, is that something that's actually developing, getting better?
And that's something that Luke's working on, and that's where the partnership with the leisure centre is going to work so well and be such a useful part of our strategy.
We wanted to start delivering it last year, but without having the DFib on site, it wouldn't be possible. So a study was done last year with the NHS on golf on referral. We're all geared up to go as far as delivering the GP referrals with the 40 surgeries in Rushcliffe. We've already got the link there with the leisure centres, so we should be able to get that in place, certainly, hopefully by summertime, back end of the year.
To be fair, because there's been such a vast improvement, there's probably not a lot to challenge you on, to be honest, because you've already alluded to the fact that you have, in the last couple of years, made quite a difference. There was quite a slump. Just one on the foot golf. I mean, this is obviously, it's down to you how you operate, but I do note it. Obviously, the figures is quite a. That's probably the biggest dip. Presumably, am I right? Was it just a flash in the pan that's now?
It was a fad. It seemed like lots of fun, and it is once or twice, but after a while, it dipped.
Yeah,
golf's a game.
It's a bit like sort of a. Is it the equivalent of almost like a crazy golf thing rather than a proper golf?
Well, I think crazy golf you can sort of go back to and sort of have fun multiple times, and it's sort of more of a family thing. Whereas foot golf was, it worked well for a couple of years, and it did bring in a new clientele, a new demographic, groups of young guys typically coming in to kick a ball around a golf course. Didn't blend terribly well with the traditional golf market. All of a sudden, you've got guys in Nottingham Forest shirts sitting in your bar with a dirty football on their lap, which didn't tend to go down too well. But these are the sorts of things that we have to do in the golf industry to diversify and make it more appealing. But it just didn't have enough of a replay factor. Golf you can keep coming back to. There's always more to learn in golf, whereas there's only so many times you can kick a football on a field. So,
Councillor Walker.
Thank you, Chair. I was going to ask, strategic objective 4, page 16, developing services for young people. Unless I've missed something, what was the actual data in relation to the target?
The Wee Nippers initiatives and junior golf and working with local primary schools.
So it was the success criteria was 300 juniors attending lessons, 1,200 juniors attending social events. Do we know what those, where you were at the end of the year?
There was, I think that those figures stem from the Caterpillar group that we have that come in, weekly bookings, to make use of the Blue Room for musical junior sessions.
Perhaps you could just let us know, where you were ended up against the success criteria.
Okay.
Been an action for or questions to be asked and answered.
Yeah, I think, Chairman, I think if I understand Councillor Walker, there's a target set there, and it's where we are against that target. So we'll talk to you after the meeting. We can get those figures and get back to you. Yeah.
Right. Any other questions or comments, Councillor Phillips?
Okay. I noticed the hygiene rating dropped to a 3 from a 4. What were the issues there?
It was 3 from a 5 actually, to make it sound even worse, but actually make us sound better. Diversity. The two simple things which are currently one has been fixed. One was the floor in the kitchen and the bar, which was damaged. That's now been replaced, and the other is the ceiling needs some repair, and we're in the process of doing that. Once those two things have been done, we're going to be requesting a revisit, and hopefully we'll get marked back up to a 5.
What sort of timescale on that do you envisage?
Well, ceiling's imminent, isn't it?
Yeah, ceiling should be done hopefully by the end of the month.
So then it's just as soon as we can get the EHO back into, but it's a priority because no one wants anything less than a 4 or 5 star rating.
Okay. Councillor Bradley?
Why were the floor and the ceiling allowed to get into that state so it actually affected your star rating? Surely this should be annual maintenance, just keeping an eye on the place to see that the standards are being kept high. It does seem a little bit of an oversight that it's got to this stage, because people do actually look on their mobile phones and see what the star ratings are about in any given establishment.
Agreed. Don't really have an answer for that. We've spent £50,000 on the facility in the last 2 years, so we've done most of the work. So it was just 2 bits that were sort of outstanding.
Important bits
I've
are
just agreed
outstanding.
with
You sorry?
I've just agreed with
Yes.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's historic, isn't it, from several years ago?
Absolutely.
And there's a new regime now, so... Yeah.
I mean, we actually got the 5 star rating while the floor and the ceiling were in that condition. So it was just a different EHO officer that used his eyes a bit more, I suspect.
Okay. Right. Any other questions or comments? I think generally, it's a good news story, and
Right. Very much.
I think the comment was made near the beginning. Congratulations. So, congratulations and thanks on vastly improving the service to our residents. So, much appreciated, and thanks for your time in coming to talk to us.
Good, thank you very much. We look forward to seeing you all over there to take part in lessons and boogie bounce and everything else.
I think I'm beyond teaching now. I'm that bad.
Never.
Yes. Not my age, it was my ability.
Right and left clippers.
John's driving, so he's...
Okay, a little bit of stage management or change of scenery. So, welcome to John Scott Lee and to Nigel Carter to take us into the second substantive part. So that's Streetwise, Darrell, are you starting us off again?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just again, a very short introduction from me, so I'm sure you're really excited to hear from John, the presentation. So this is the annual report for Streetwise for the performance period April 2018 up to the present date. I think you both know John and Nigel, so John is going to be doing a presentation to members, and then they're both happy to answer any questions you may have. And members are asked to consider and comment on the performance of Streetwise over the last 12 months. Streetwise is now 4 years old. A current contract is due to expire in September 2019, and following a benchmarking exercise that we carried out over the summer, agreement's been made to offer a 3-year extension, and that will also see some changes in the new performance management framework that we're going to be putting in as well. I've no doubt John and Nigel will share some of the major successes during the last 12 months, and again I don't want to steal their thunder, but in particular I'd point out how popular the West Bridgeford flower display remains. Sponsorship of the Christmas trees, not just on Central Avenue but also on Melton Road this year. And in particular I saw the hard work that was put in to make the Tour of Britain such a success with Streetwise, and I'd thank Nigel and John in particular for that. Members at PMB often raise the issue of fly tipping. It's normally an annual event. I thought I'd just give you a quick update on fly tipping, and we've not solved it, and the numbers continue to rise. It is a national issue. Hopefully members will have seen some very recent publicity on fly tipping, where we've had 2 very successful prosecutions, which also included scrapping and squashing the offender's van. And we will continue to do that wherever possible. We're also very active now across Nottinghamshire in the fact that we now have a Nottinghamshire-wide fly tipping forum that we attend regularly to hopefully share best practice and see what else we can do. Whilst in general performance is really good, we continue to work with Streetwise. That's what you expect me to do, to try and improve some areas, particularly around the problem with leaf sweeping, which is an annual problem, and the leaves will all come down at the same time, and it's a lot easier to sweep up dry leaves, but obviously we need to make sure we've got the resources in place, because once they're wet they become mulchy and then it takes twice as long to clean them. So we're doing a lot of work with them on that. We've done some work and some trials over the last 12 months on roads where it's particularly difficult to sweep, where we've sent letters out to residents, asked them if possible if they could move their cars so we can try and help make their environment look lovely and clean and actually sweep right up to the channels. And we've reported back previously work continues over litter picking on major trunk roads, and trying to get Highways England to engage with us with regards to lane closures. We're very keen, particularly this year for Streetwise, to continue to engage and grow a network of community litter picking champions, and that's some work that will be supported by both the Council and Streetwise moving forward. And over the next couple of weeks you'll no doubt see some press releases and some social media stuff, and we're going to be signing up to the Tidy Britain Group's national Spring Clean campaign. So I'll be working with John and Nigel to make sure that's a success and we can get as many people involved as possible. So that's my short presentation. John, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Chairman, councillors and officers, thank you very much. First of all, just to say, I think this is the first one we've had where greeting Nigel Carter on this side of the table now, and it's certainly been a win for Streetwise to lure him away from you at RBC. But I know with the expertise that he had, certainly with RBC, he's brought this already into Streetwise. So that's a first big.
Did we ever negotiate the transfer fee?
The cheques in the post, Mr. Chairman. Just while I rush through here, I mean, people do know Streetwise, and obviously you come across them, hopefully you're in a positive way. And the response that we're getting from a lot of people, it has been very, very positive. Basically what I've done here is just to bring it in preset form is Rushcliffe Borough Council, the services that we offer, our key performance indicators, our achievements, and I don't feel any embarrassment about blowing our trumpet really in some of those areas, and I'm doing that on behalf of our frontline staff. Our social values and initiatives, the move from West Bridgeford, which is on the horizon, and I'll briefly touch on that, and then obviously at the end some questions. Rushcliffe Borough Council services, and this is the statement that we run Streetwise with, and I think it's important for us, which we do when we look at what we're providing for Rushcliffe. Why was Streetwise set up in the first place? And this is something which we remind staff when we bring them in for their introduction, but also we talk about it amongst ourselves to say what is our prime reason for existence, ensures that our prime contract with Rushcliffe Borough Council and the parish councils is at the heart of everything we do. Our primary focus is always to deliver the needs of our prime contract without compromising the service and delivery we offer. And that's something which take really much to heart, and I think that's where some of our long-standing employees that we transferred over from RBC are still bringing that forward and actually working with newer members of staff and showing them this is what we're here for. Again, areas which we deliver in, and a lot of you will know this, but I put some figures up here, but just to give an idea of what we're talking about with Streetwise. And when you start doing the calculations, 8 million square metres, including residential areas, playing fields and other recreational spaces. It's a huge amount which we deal with, and we have to maintain in a proper and correct fashion. The roads, we annually clean and maintain 800 kilometres and clean 6 tonnes of detritus away from that with our mechanical sweepers. And as Darryl alluded to, that's something I'll come on to in a minute, about the changing weather conditions that we have. And obviously, because the majority of our work is outside, it does get affected by the climatic conditions as they change. Rubbish, we annually collect 1,400 tonnes through litter bins, fly tips, street litter. And again, I'll come on to the fly tips. Darryl's absolutely right. This is something which is rife, and it never ceases to amaze me. And when we report it back, and we work very closely with Darryl and RBC, I can understand in my little brain thinking, if I'd got a fridge and I thought I really can't be bothered to move it, would I throw it in a ditch? Now, although it's totally incomprehensible, I can understand it. Why would you put 14 fridges in the front? And that's where, when we come back to RBC, and we do have to sometimes, when we get our reports coming through, and we're saying, we found some fridges, and we have feedbacks from councillors and officers as well, and we go investigate, and we find there's 14 fridges. And Darryl's quite rightly said, with RBC and the legal department, they've managed to capture these people, and in fact, doing the severity of confiscating the vehicles and squashing them, I think it's absolutely superb. But it's an ongoing problem that we have all the time, and that's reflected in the contract that we've got with RBC, working with Dee and the department on there. They're looking at saying, well, we do acknowledge that you're spending more and more time dealing with these fly tips. Providing emergency services in the form of tree works, drainage, sandbags and gritting. Yes, be honest, we haven't been called upon, thank God, too much this year, although we've done our question of where we're actually treating ice and we're using sandbags and stuff like that, but really on the gritting side, it's not been too bad. Fingers crossed we're out of it now. Provide assistance support for elections in erecting and removal of ballot boxes. That's just part of the service that's written into Streetwise, and we have to do it. And then the 55 plus parish councils, where grounds maintenance is done some or to a lesser extent, but we do our ROSPA inspections on all the play equipment, provide mechanical sweeping where it's required, and again, Christmas tree lights and support at local events. And we are getting more now, which is really good. And we've got the parish forum coming up, and one of the things I want to encourage is to say to the parish councillors, please come to us and ask us, because if we're in the area, it's not a question of we're saying, well, we're in the area and by the way, we can earn a few extra pounds. It's a question, if we're in the area and we can support something you're doing, we will certainly do it. Key performance indicators. This always amazes me, and I've said this last time when I was here. The standard that RBC have put for Streetwise and what we deliver is extremely high, and I totally understand that. And that's why I understand now, not living in the area, but being in the area for the length of time I have now, why your borough, compared with other boroughs, is a lot cleaner. The standards that we have to get to are extremely high. And in fact, we do have meetings with Darryl and with Dee where we say, actually, our street cleansing our inspections is 98%. And everybody goes, my God, 98%. Now, really, it's because you have raised the bar so high that we are really held to account. So we've only got to drop a very, very small amount and it's registering. And I think that's good. Initially, I must be honest, when I first came to here and saw the percentages, I just wondered how it would work coming from my previous industry. But I can see it does work, and all the time we're trying to achieve and get further. Now, the detritus which Darryl raised, again, absolutely correct. The problem on the leaves, which we've talked about before, they never fall down at the same time, as we all know. I wish they would, but they never do. Or they fall down and it suddenly gets really, really rainy and it starts to ferment, and then it does become a different problem. We've invested in a new piece of equipment to actually, I'm talking to Nigel actually tonight when we were coming in thinking about it. We've got some new initiatives from the leaf sweeping to say, let's get there earlier. But we can only get there earlier once the leaves have come off the trees. So it's not a question of just waiting underneath for them, but the moment they do get on the ground, let's bring them up with the vacuums that we've now purchased. So fingers crossed. And also hotspots. The problem is, as we know, that you can track these hotspots and say, right, we're ready next year, but they don't appear in the same area. They appear in a different area. And that's something which is just a moving target all the time. The same with the detritus. I'm finding now we're getting some good response when we put letters through letterboxes to say, please, can you remove your car? And they are doing it. And again, that gives us the opportunity to get our big sweeper down, make sure it's clean. If we only have in a road, some of the roads we've been looking at, and today Nigel and I have been out, you look at the road and you think, this could do with a sweep, but then you look at it and you see the cars that are constantly there. And also, we have a problem in West Bridgford, which you will know better than I do, that we've got people that might be living in the area, they move their car out and somebody else comes in quickly to use the parking space. And so therefore, whatever time of the day you appear to go to some of these roads, there's always cars parked there. And I've never really understood it, but I do now, that because this transit of vehicles. But once we put the letters through the letterbox, we are getting a better response. And again, that's working with RBC, helping us do that and be able to deliver what we want to do. What have we achieved? What have we done? Really, what we've done is we've gone back to our 4 working divisions, which include arboriculture, playgrounds, grounds maintenance, landscaping and cleansing. We've reinforced, and what we are really passionate about is our appraisal that we do with our staff and also the training that we give them. And therefore we are now increasing, and since we've been there, the last 2 or 3 years, we've got our staff now are actually in a better position, not only to deliver for RBC, but also their knowledge of what they're doing. They're more multi-tasks. So we're getting people now whereby rather than somebody saying, well, I empty litter bins or I do dog bins, well, I do the grass. No. What you do is when you go to the area, if you are emptying the dog bins and you do see weeds, remove them. If you are seeing an area where it does need spraying, you've got the equipment, please do it. So it's this multifunctional use, which is the best way of using our staff we're bringing forward, and it's doing it because we managed to get additional training back into them. Our marketing techniques, yes, developing our website, and that's a constant thing that we're talking about, and we've got to do even more on it. And with Nigel coming over, he's got some really good thoughts about how we're going to change that, and that's going to be good. Improvised leaflets, we do the letter drops through the doorstep. What started out as somebody, or I was thinking, we'll provide this service for the local resident. It has just grown and grown and grown. And it is in fact a good part of our business, but it's also reinforcing to people what Streetwise are doing. And again, when these people are going to the actual houses or the gardens within the borough, they're also passing areas, and we keep on educating them and saying again, stop the vehicle, go out, remove the rubbish or remove the litter while you're there. And I had a situation this morning when I was looking outside. In fact, I filled up very early this morning at Asda. Opposite Asda, the litter was unbelievable.
I was going to ask you about that.
Absolutely. Oh, thank you, Shem. It was unbelievable. So I was on the phone straight away, and Barry, as you know, Barry Ingle doesn't sleep anyway, so you can phone him anytime, please do. I phoned him at sort of 5:30 this morning and said, Barry, he goes, look, John, we are about to empty the litter bin, but can I tell you, from my experience, what happens? And then he went in to say, there's the wind that blows down from here and round the corner. I'm thinking, oh, Lord, Barry, why is it like this? He said, it is always like this, John. The trouble is, what we're doing is we've got more litter from the other side of the road that's blowing over. So what we're doing now is identifying these areas and saying, right, let's do a bit more frequency there. How can we do it? But again, we've only got a finite resource. And the thing is, if we pull them off one area and put them in there, you have to say, well, are there any areas where we don't need to litter pick as much? And this is back down to what we're working smarter now, is looking at our litter bins, looking at our dog bins. Yes, over the Christmas period it's horrendous, and we do appreciate that. It is absolutely horrendous because everybody's out. But if we come across a litter bin and it is not completely, or just below half full, and we know we're going to be there tomorrow, leave it. And that just saves that little bit of time, which then you can put at the end of the round to say, for instance, Mr. Chairman, as you said, let's concentrate on Asda, let's concentrate on hot spots, which we do. And again, with Darryl and the team from RBC, they share all the time where they know, actually, we're driving in and there is a hot spot. We had a situation the other day with Dave Banks coming in from Ruddington, and he was noticing that they've cut the grass, the hedges down, nothing to do with us, it's been cut down by the county, but there is this problem of litter that's been exposed. Feed that information back into us as quickly as you can. While our chaps are actually on the road, then they can stop and deal with it. So that's something we're trying to get a lot smarter in what we're doing. Facebook, I don't prefer to understand Facebook completely, and certainly not Twitter and all the other stuff, but this is what's going on, and we're getting more and more of this information fed back through us. Obviously the CCTS, that's a really valuable spot for us to feed back in anybody that's got any queries or anything they see. And then the last one, which is really important for us, is to help the long-term unemployed and people that need work experience. And we're forever looking at trying to find people that do need additional help. And that's something else which I should be raising to the parish councils, because there's got to be people out there that do want some work experience, or they do want some. We work with the Prince's Trust. We've done 2 projects with the Prince's Trust, and it's worked out extremely well. And it then just gives these people a bit of a boost, and in fact 2 of the people from the Prince's Trust we've taken on. What have we done here? What we've done here is social value company. This was opportunities to individuals, as I said, and this was actually done in Bingham, where they got a wall. They wanted to do something to make it a bit more, and so perhaps it's not my taste, I would have to say, but however, notwithstanding that, we worked with the project in Bingham. We brought in with the Prince's Trust and with our own people and developed something which it's something to get these people to think a bit more about. And I think now 2 or 3 of these lads have got a bit more involved with it, and hopefully that will lead to something which might pull them out of perhaps where they were before. The Great Britain Tidy campaign, as Darryl said, what's happening, and I attended a conference with an RBC officer looking at these volunteered litter picking groups of people. Again, I'll be really honest, I was a little bit cynical to think that would people give up their time to do it? Absolutely. We now have 4 or 5 live teams that we're talking to that are saying, please can we come with you to litter pick an area. We've got the first one that's going to be starting on the A52 in the safe area, because that's the problems we do have. With 25 people, they promised us there's going to be at least 25 people, and we're going to blitz it for 3 hours, and at the end of it we're going to provide them with a cup of coffee. But I think this is one that, and I know it's near to the heart of RBC when they're talking, I think this is one that is going to really, really take off. And I think if we can just encourage it, we make sure it's health and safety, we do the risks for them, we actually make sure that they've got personal protection, also they've got litter pickers, but also when they collect the rubbish, leave it in the front and we will deal with it. And that's something which I think is really starting. The coverage on local radio was a young lady, a girl 5 years old, that lived very close to West Bridgford, and she was in the finals of the competition for RBC, but she apparently was on the way to school and decided to pick up litter. And the mother's obviously the way to school thinking, oh, I forgot what you're doing. This has taken off. She got obsessed with this. So the mother had to keep on bringing these litter bags when she went to school, and she would tell to her friends, and on the way back they'd do the same thing. And it started to grow, and we heard about it, and through R2Go as well, we got together, we gave them a bit more of a pep talk, we gave them a little prize. In fact, we gave them a cinema prize, a family ticket to the cinema, but it also meant that these children, and they are starting at that age, are starting to be conscious of what's been thrown around. And in fact, that's something which we want to push, and I'm sure with these focus groups that we've got for the litter picking, it's going to really, really make a difference. The drop-in centre, obviously that's something that's close to our hearts as well, and we do what we can. We provide I think this year we provided about, not to the extent of RBC obviously, but we provided about 50 boxes of perishables which they told us what they wanted. We collected it with ourselves and also with our subcontractors to get a contribution and take it over to them. And they've been, and Anne at the Friary, we know her extremely well. She actually phones us and says we've got a problem, and if we can help out, we certainly do. And again, that's something which locally we can actually want to do a bit more too. The homelessness and collections, homeless people, again, this is something with Anne, if we spot anybody, and we've got our frontline staff now trained to actually say, right, if they're camping anywhere or they're in a position, report it back in. Make sure that we know what's going on. We're doing this with a safeguarding route with Metropolitan Housing Trust and also with RBC, where we've got vulnerable people that if we spot during our working hours that there might be, and it has to be very, very originally looked at, but if there's loud shouting, if we see children being away from school at different times, and all the other aspects of it, we now have a formal process to bring that information in, and then that's shared with the professionals that can go out and actually investigate and make sure that everything is okay. Tudor Square, Christmas lights, we've done it again for this year as well, and we've got some further plan for next year. As I mentioned, the Prince's Trust, we've worked with those on 2 projects so far, and I'm hopeful there'll be another one, and that's in conjunction with Nottingham Fire Service, and we work closely with them. Sponsoring, yes, the MJ Awards, we do that with RBC and the Community and Sports Awards, and we're more than pleased to do that. It's a question of what we can generate on our side to put back into RBC. I should have mentioned Lark in the Park. Yes, we are part of that as well, and we each year do a bit more. We try to add a bit more and try to do a bit more with what we can actually offer. That's the young girl in front there, Neve Taylor, who's the one that came runner-up. Daryl kindly mentioned about the cycling event. That was a big push for us. It was something that was unsociable hours, so that fitted in quite well with Barry Ingle for starters, but also for us to clear the roads at the time and make sure it went well. And yes, thank you, Daryl, and for RBC, it certainly proved its worth. And obviously the normal sort of clearing up after Lark in the Park, making sure that all this is back to normal. And again, that's something which I inherited was, or I say I streetwise inherited, is when there's a football match, when there's a cricket match, when there's whatever, it must be cleared within 24 hours. And in fact, we managed to do that. Our teams are out. They're very, very versed in where they should be, how they should do it. And therefore, this last 12 months, and I'm hopeful this year as well with the cricket that we're going to have, we're going to put some additional support in there to make sure that the borough is kept as good as it can be. The move from West Bridgford, my summing up is going to be very easy. We're still looking at a number of options. And I think we're working very closely again with RBC. We've identified, Nigel and I have been around the borough with our contacts. RBC are doing exactly the same thing, and it's ongoing. So there's no more I can tell you other than I say to my frontline staff when they say, when are you leaving? I'm saying, we don't know, where are you going? We don't know where we're going to be going at the moment. It's an ongoing moving target. Just to put here about the fly tipping, again, I mentioned about the fridges, why anybody would actually have the energy to cart a settee or a suite over and put it in a hedge, I just do not understand. But again, these are the sort of things that we're actually having to clear up. And then on the right-hand side, we've got one of our operatives, Elvis, who's cleaning off. And again, it's coming more and more now, and it is a problem which we have, and I know there's problems which we've got socially where we're talking about knife events that happened nationwide, but from our side, this is something which is getting worse. It's not getting better. And then our little sweeper here showing that yes, you know, we're on the go with these small sweepers to make sure that when there's any rough cut, when there's any grass cutting, when there's any blowing around, or when here we've had a farmer that's gone by and there's straw down, we've got to get in there and sort it out. Travellers, fingers crossed for this year. It's the bane of my life. I'm sure it is for councillors and certainly for officers as well. All I can say is that we react very quickly to it when it comes. We do everything we can. We even actually say to them if they're on there, we'll provide them with bags if they can do something to it. Not being graphic, but it's after dinner, isn't it? Yes. We had an instance last year when they moved into the arena car park here, and you would not believe it. You cannot believe it. And I just find it unbelievable in this day and age. But there's no, if there was an easy solution, I'm sure you as councillors and officers would have solved it. But it's something that we're tracking, and this moment we hear anybody's in the area, we're alerting to that effect. That really sums up everything I have to say on Streetwise. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I think a few of us know what the solution is, but we're not allowed to say what it is. Well, I've got several questions, but I'll open it up to any Councillor Beardsall.
Yeah, if I could just inquire, section 6 of the report, 6.1 finance. Sorry, 6.1 finance. There's an annual sum. The annual sum will rise by 82,000 due to agreed contractual increases, 52,000 inflation, and variations in the prime contract of 29,000. Could you explain what those two figures include, please?
Darryl,
Thank you.
Darryl.
Yes, so the first one is basically the annual increase inflation that applies to a number of the contracts we run. The second one, the variations in the prime contracts, can be a number of things. So it may well be that, as John said, we've agreed some additional expenditure to cover the extra amount of fly tipping work they may be doing. The main ones are where land comes on and becomes owned by the council, becomes our responsibility. So there will be grassed areas, parks, playing areas, etc., that we then take on, and so we price those up. We have a set price in the contracts anyway. So that's basically what they are.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Can I ask, do you have a timescale of when you need to be out of the depot in West Bridgford?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I've been told it's September, October-ish, but I have not got a firm date, and that's something which we
Well, it was September, October 2 years ago, wasn't it? Yes, Kath.
So I'll just add a bit to that. So, as you know, we are looking to submit a planning application for the Abbey Road depot site to put residential housing on there. We're in the process of Artigo moving off. I think that's going to be May, June time this year. That's all been organised. We've got some options, as John has said, about where Streetwise could go. We haven't got a perfect option yet, and it may be that we don't have a perfect option. So we've got a long list, and we'll get to a point where we've got a short list and they move off. We were lucky enough to secure some external funding for the Abbey Road depot site, which is called Land Release Fund, which is linked to releasing land for housing. The timescale for us spending that funding is March of next year, March 2020. So the council's actually received the funding, so that's a good thing. If we don't meet the criteria, we could have to pay it back. It's always better to have the money and be in a position where they have to try and get it back off you. But, you know, we have got some timescales to meet in order to release the land, get the planning permission, all the rest of it, get a contractor on site, or the council do a start on site. So we do need Streetwise to vacate. And yes, we have set them a date of September.
All right.
Can I ask you what your aspirations are for the next 12 months?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chairman. I think it's really the training one which is the one that's most important to me. Also to look at how we're delivering our contracts, make sure we are getting these multidisciplinary groups that we've done. We've got supervisors now. It's more autonomous. What we're actually saying to them is you make the decision on the front line. It's not the business of saying you've got to come back to an office that will tell you what to do. You know what you need to do. You know what timescales you've got to deliver on. So it's really that training is the one which is most important to me. I think the other thing is this question of what else can we do for the borough, and I think that's where we get opportunities through RBC to tender for work. and as long as anybody else, we have to tender in the proper way, and it's to make sure that we are getting as commercial as we can do, so when we do get these opportunities, you know, we can secure them. But that's my priority.
Okay. Councillor Mrs Jeffries.
Yes. I've lived in Cockgrave for 55 years. When we first went there, perhaps in each road 2 or 3 people owned a dog. Now everywhere I go there are dogs, and I'm becoming increasingly worried because I have spoken to people as I go around the village, and they say, and there are a lot of people, they're dog walkers. Now, are there any rules about how many dogs and what type of dogs a dog walker may have? Because a week ago I saw a young lady with a baby in a carrier on her chest. She had 5 dogs, two of whom were retrievers, and having had a retriever, they can really pull. How on earth she could do all of that, and she was on her mobile phone. So, seriously,
I'm not really
this
sure.
is a real
I'm not
problem.
really sure how much of that can fit
Well,
in with
the
your
amount of
contract.
poop, there is no way she could have scooped any of it up. And are there rules about how many dogs a dog walker may have?
Darryl?
Thank you. I'll be totally honest. I don't know the answer to the first part of the question about the rules. I'm sure we can try and find out for you.
Yes.
I think the second thing I'd point out is when we do our inspections, actually we generally find that dog fouling is not a major issue across the borough. There's certain parts where we're doing some work moving forward again with streetwise. So particularly one part of West Bridgeford, we're looking at maybe putting some stencils on the pavement, pointing people to where the dog bins are. And we also work very closely with the dog wardens as well, so we'll inform them if there are any areas, and then the dog wardens will be out and about. But I'll certainly try and look into your first question about the number of dogs.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nigel?
I think, Mr Chairman, just to add to that, and in particular answer to your question, Councillor Jeffries, we also do some work in partnership with Cockgrave Town Council. So we do additional service in the Cockgrave area, which has been very successful over the last 2 or 3 years.
Oh, excellent. Thank you.
Councillor Plant.
Just paragraph 4.3, it mentions a reduction in satisfaction highlighted in the resident survey 2018. What specific, was there something specific that people weren't happy with, or?
Are you, just to interrupt, because I was going to ask that, are you referring to page 48, which is...
Oh no, I'm on page 24.
Well, I'm just relating it. I was going to relate it, although it's the last item on the KPI, is on the performance. The resident survey on page 48 does talk about percentage of people who are satisfied with street cleanliness, 63%, whereas the national figure is 67%, which is unfortunate because normally the RBC figures are better than the national. So if I could sort of hang on the back of that as sort of a two-part or related question. Be interested to know what the reasons might be.
I think the reason, Mr Chairman, I think the standards that West Bridgeford have are very, very high. And I think the question of whenever there's any area that drops even a minutest amount, quite rightly, as I said when I was talking, people report back and they seem as if, and quite rightly, to make sure it's always at that particular level. The detritus that we've spoken about is such that we have had a problem this year, and we would be honest and open about it. For whatever reason, there's been a huge amount of, well, there's been a lot more detritus than we've had before. And we're removing at any one time tons and tons of this. But it is a question that it does go in fits and starts. And I'm sure that it is a question that if you had, as bad as it might be, but if you had a really downpour, a lot of this might be washed down the drains. And I know that puts an inherent problem of down the drains, but at least it wouldn't be in the clumps that it's got at the moment. But my only comment can be that, yes, this is something that we are addressing with RBC to say, we know where the hot spots are now. This is the ones we're going to concentrate on, and we're going to do a lot more of the litter, the envelopes through the doors to ask people to move their cars.
Okay. Councillor Bailey?
You mentioned you're doing litter picks on the A52. Now, normally I think that what you're doing is really good, but I was going down the A52 between the Weybridge at Bingham, going out towards Watton, and it's a bit of a wind tunnel because it's got quite high banks. And at the end of last week, you may have done it since, but at the end of last week, I could not believe the amount of rubbish that was on the side of the road. Is this just a one-off that I happen to have noticed, or is this a hotspot area for you?
Darryl?
Thank you. It's not a one-off because I noticed it too. There's work being done over the weekend from the A52 from the old Saxondale Islands going all the way out to the border basically. So that will all be sorted over the weekend.
Thank you.
Just a few things. Sorry, did you want to say something?
No, it's fine.
All right. A couple of plaudits first of all. You've talked about the travellers, and this isn't a complaint. This is just something I heard from the people of Newton who have been troubled by travellers just by the roundabout on the A46 several times, but they do praise Streetwise for coming in and doing the nasty tasks that they have to do. So
Thank
you know,
you, Mr. Chairman.
that was applauded. And also I've heard from several people in terms of tree planting that the operatives are being very helpful and cooperative in liaising with tree planting. Were a couple of things. Just going back to the Asda litter, and this isn't a point about getting it cleared up. It's a bit like health and crime. If you prevent the illness, is better, and if you prevent the crime, is better than having to solve it. Have you done any work in terms of trying to identify, because presumably, with it being opposite the Asda car park, have you done any work in maybe speaking to Asda and saying, is there anything we can do to try and mitigate or reduce? Because clearly, the litter must be coming from the car park, because the litter isn't all the way down Loughborough Road. So that's just an example, and maybe would that work where there are other supermarket car parks as well?
I think it's a good point, Mr. Chairman. In fact, the car park we're talking about by the petrol station, every morning Asda have two people out with litter pickers actually going around, their own staff, but they only do their own little area there. They don't go any farther. So maybe it is it's a good point to have a further discussion with the store to say, right, what can we do to sort of mitigate?
Darryl?
Yeah, just a bit of an update on that one as well, because I saw the litter again this afternoon. Historically, many years ago, Asda did used to litter pick that. We did have an arrangement with Asda in place where we said the rubbish is coming from your premises. We do have certain powers over how they store waste, etc. And I think it's probably one that we need to take away and go and visit Asda again and say they need to be stretching their legs and coming on and litter picking that hedge, because it is a real hot spot.
I don't know whether it actually might be coming principally from their recycling section. Well, who knows? But all I'm saying is it might be worth having a conversation. Councillor Walker.
Thank you, Chair. There are some 4 KPIs on page 25 that were also referred in the report. I wonder if somebody could just explain what they are and how they're calculated. I'm looking at the ones which read improve street and environmental cleanliness, and it lists litter, detritus, graffiti and dog fouling. What are those and how are they calculated?
Okay, thank you. We follow what used to be called National Indicator 195, so it's a pretty standard thing that most councils do. So each month, one member of my team will go out and choose a various degree of roads. So it might be some parks, it might be a main road, it might be a side street, it might be a road on a new estate. And they divide that road into what we call segments, which is a 25 metre or 50 metre segment. And then they basically check that road for litter. And there's 4 grades. So the road can be absolutely horrendous, which we would grade it a D, or generally in Rushcliffe it's normally an A or maybe a B+. And that's also where we generally find we don't find any dog fouling. And then that's without getting too complicated, it's put into a very complicated spreadsheet which will spit out these figures. Yeah. So that's how it's done.
You asked? You got the answer. Can I just go back to detritus and be interested to know, because I'm never quite sure exactly what powers you've got to operate on the trunk roads, given all the rigmarole you have to go through with the vehicles and the roadblocks and this, that and the other. But on the A46, you get these piles of detritus up against the central carriageway, which to me is quite a road hazard, because if a car happened to drift off and hit it, they'd be straight up in the air. Does that come under your remit, or is that completely Highways England or whatever they call themselves nowadays?
It is our responsibility to keep them clean. We've noticed that a number of these new roads that are being built seem to have solid central reservations, and it doesn't actually help with the stuff blowing through. So about a year and a half ago, the Sales and Streetwise worked together to put a team on there to try and clear what is almost like a straw bale that develops. I have to say, working with Highways England or trying to get Highways England to engage with us is particularly difficult, and it's a task that we want to, again, try and work with them, because clearly we can work on the near side, on the grass banks and stuff, relatively safety with safe systems of work and risk assessments in place. We do really need a full sort of outside lane road closure to do the central reservations. So it is an ongoing piece of work, but I have to say it can be quite frustrating at times.
Well, I just wonder, where does the balance occur between it becoming an excessive road hazard as against having to sort of close the road?
Highways England would argue that it's classed as litter. Even if it was a shredded tyre, it would be classed as litter. I would go back to them and say that I actually think that's a road hazard and they should remove it. Generally they do for larger items, but things like the bales and just general litter and detritus, it is classed as litter.
Yeah. Councillor Bailey.
In two of my parishes within my ward, quite a rural ward, dog fouling becomes a real problem from the autumn onwards, when people are walking their dogs under the cover of darkness in the evening, and what the dogs happen to do on pavements is not viewable by locals. And I have to say, Flinton Parish Council and Austin are two parish councils that spring to mind, that constantly this subject of dog fouling comes up time and time again. If this is a problem, which it is, can the parish council contact the dog warden to come along and advise, or?
Most definitely, we would actively encourage them to do that. The dog wardens do work out of what we'd call normal hours, so quite often we'll ask the dog warden to come in particularly early if people are walking the dogs early. But yeah, I'm quite happy to provide the details of both Charlotte and Colin, who work in neighbourhoods. They're more than happy to come out.
Thank you very much indeed. I'll mention it to my parish council. Thank you.
On the subject of fly tipping, how does it work? The prime contract is that you remove fly tipping, but presumably if there was a sudden massive increase, I'm assuming you would come back to IBC and say there's been a tenfold increase in fly tipping, this is no longer realistic, we need more money. Is that the basis, Darryl?
That's exactly the case, and that's what's happened, and that forms part of the contract variation for this year, where they have come back, and we think in fairness they're doing a lot more than was initially out there 4 years ago. In regard to removal of fly tipping, we generally insist they do try and remove within 24 hours, because fly tipping can encourage more people to tip down. It can become a right mess. The only time we wouldn't do that is where we might want to leave it there for evidence. So our environmental health team would then need to go out and start taking photos if we're going to start developing a prosecution, as was the case within the fridges.
And what's your approach to, because sometimes the fly tipping will be on private land, in a gateway or whatever, but to the general member of the public, I would assume they're just going to say, why doesn't the council get rid of it? So, I mean, what's your general approach? How do you approach private land, which is obviously fly tipping, but on private property?
Again, the private land fly tipping is dealt with through our environmental health officer team, so they would go out and they would speak to them. We can't remove it because we're only responsible for moving off the public highway. However, we're relatively sensible about it, because, as you say, quite often what will happen is it's dumped in a farmer's gateway. So normally if it's overhanging the public highway, then we would remove all of it. We never get to a situation where we just take the bit on our side.
Councillor Phillips. On the graffiti, I think there's a photograph there, and that obviously wasn't Rushcliffe Borough Council property. So if it's on, say, a substation or something like that, we remove it, are we allowed to claim back the money from the cost of removing it from whoever the property is?
At present we don't, unless it was a particularly major instance. So if we had, say, a highways bridge that was totally covered in it, then yes, we would certainly be speaking to the Highways Authority. I think the example there, I think it was on a green, what I would class as an old Virgin Media box. Sometimes the cost of actually trying to get through to the right area to actually try and claim what is relatively small costs through, it's sometimes just easy just to remove it.
Councillor Jones?
On a similar sort of note, are you finding that there are more banners that are being put up around the borough, and are you allowed to remove those as well, and are you finding that more of a problem?
Streetwise are responsible for removing fly posters where they don't have permission. We take quite a pragmatic approach to fly posters that may be advertised in a school fair or a parish council event or whatever. On occasions we have mistakenly removed them, but we store them and we would give them back to the parish council. But if it's just someone advertising a jumble sale or something like that, then generally we will take them down. The metal signs, which you will see, sometimes we're not allowed to touch because they've generally been put up with the permission of the county council.
Okay, right. I think we've probably any more burning questions or comments. I think we probably need to move on. So thank you very much indeed, gentlemen, for coming along, and keep up the good work. Right. Okay. Item 6. Performance monitoring, quarter 3. Who's doing it? Charlotte? Charlotte.
Forgive me, I'm multitasking this evening. You have in front of you the quarter 3 performance monitoring report, as you normally see at each meeting. The addition to this one is towards the end. I can just find the page number for you. Oh, I don't have page numbers. Hang on. No. Resident survey information is what I was going for. I can tell you that within the performance report we have 3 highlights. So the percentage of residents satisfied with refuse and recycling. I know it's only 1%, but given that a lot of the others are slightly down and the national figures are slightly down in the resident survey, the fact that we've increased one is worth mentioning. We have income generated through letting property owned by the council but not occupied by the council. So this is obviously helping our financial position. And corporate sickness, I know, has been a problem in the past, and this committee's picked up on it. I'm pleased to say that we currently stand at 4.85 days at the end of December, which is ahead of our 6-day target for this point in the year, and looking good in comparison with previous years as well. Hopefully the mild weather that we've had over the winter this year has helped with that. We haven't had a huge number of staff sicknesses, coughs and colds. The majority of that sickness is down to what we call the long-term absences, where people have planned operations and recovery periods and such like. In terms of exceptions for this quarter, the value of income generated as a result of the investment strategy. So this was money that we put aside in a pot for spending on buildings and investments over the course of the last few years. Generally been a bit slower than anticipated, but of course we have got ambitious plans for the next couple of years that I know that you're aware of, so I'm not too worried about that. It's just we're taking a different approach. The other 3 exceptions all relate to the resident survey, and are showing slight dips either in our comparative performance from 3 years ago, or poorer performance when you're looking against a national target. Things are, I don't think they're a problem. I have to say that they're still really high in comparison with other councils elsewhere. If you look at the climate that we're operating in, we don't have the huge problems that other areas have. We're still providing good services, we're still valued. People aren't as happy with a lot of stuff at the moment, bearing in mind that this survey was done towards the end of last year. I think we need to get past the end of this month. But there are a few things there that obviously may be of concern to you that we can then have a look at if you feel that we need to. Other than that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have against the report or the resident survey stuff towards the end.
Okay, Councillor Beers.
I think I've raised this topic in the past. On performance targets, some of the targets seem extremely low. So say for example, target on page 41, which is the middle one, and it's red, LIFCS57. Percentage of residents who believe they can influence decisions that affect their local area. Target of 45%. No. I mean, let's. That might be an answer, but it's not the answer I'd like.
Well,
anyway, can you say why is that 45%?
Targets, isn't it?
It seems extremely low, and we must set higher targets.
Kath, would you like to?
We could set a higher target, but it doesn't look like we'd reach it. Now I can't tell you why.
Yes, you don't set targets according to what you do.
Well,
you set a target as a target.
I think last time the target was 37%. Sorry, the result was 37%, and that was, you know, some of the timing of the results of that was when local plan part 2 was local plan part 1 was going through, and that was a really difficult time for the council, and obviously a lot of residents were not happy with what was going into local plan part 1, and so we certainly had a feeling at the time that, I mean, that had dipped from previous, but that low result could have been reflective of that sense of the council having to put in place things that residents didn't want, and indeed the council didn't really want to do either. Where the target was set following that would be looking to lift that up. I didn't set the target. I don't know if you did, Charlotte, or whether it was just a
was
corporate
set by councillors in the corporate strategy.
Yeah. And if I can just continue, what we'd said at the last meeting was about looking at some of these targets, about looking at the basket of indicators and where the targets were and were they stretching enough, as you've raised before. And we were going to have a separate meeting, a smaller group, to look at some of those targets moving forward, weren't we? In the pack, which you've probably seen already, but the action was on page 10 to look at a separate subgroup to consider how to monitor the performance of the council and its delivery of the new corporate strategy in advance of the next financial year. But as you are all aware, we've had the scrutiny review, which has then proposed, and I think is going to council on Thursday for you to debate, the setting up of a new scrutiny structure. So outside of the meeting, we had a conversation with the chairman and vice chairman to say, look, we knew that you wanted to do this important piece of work, and we're not trying to say don't do it at all. I think what the agreement was, let's get this new structure in place and then go back to setting up that, doing that piece of work and addressing the concerns that you've got there about the targets and what they should be.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. And I think it's very important that this action is carried forward in the minutes of actions, so that as we do transfer into the new scrutiny model, that this would be imported into that, so it's not missed, basically. So okay.
So
thank you.
Is there a mechanism, or can we actually create a mechanism? And this really applies to all the scrutiny groups, doesn't it?
Yeah.
whereby sort of work in progress, if you like, or actions that need doing, that there is a sort of a basket of actions that's incorporated and deposited with the new structure,
Yeah.
so that they can actually be enacted.
Absolutely agree, Chairman. And I think on the sort of draft, the presentation that you saw when those of you who could attend that session about scrutiny saw that it was recommended that some of the responsibility for performance management went up to the corporate overview group, and certainly some of these actions should continue. And I think that, you know, you've got your opportunity on Thursday to debate the report, and no doubt you'll be making some of these points that the excellent piece of work that you've done or started, and some of the other scrutiny groups have started, will continue into the new programme.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
But just picking up your point as well, though, or at least Charlotte's answer, that it was decided by members in the corporate strategy. We've got a new corporate strategy being drawn up, haven't we?
Well, officers have started to look at where the corporate strategy could start to be shaped, but of course we've got an election to get through first.
Oh, really?
So,
when's that?
So, you know, once the elections results are in and we know the shape of the new council, there'll be opportunity to look at what the corporate strategy will be for members to shape that, and then that will move forward and obviously influence and scrutiny will have the oversight of it.
Mm.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, well, that's when councillors can have an input into the targets again, then, can't it?
Yes, absolutely.
Open to the floor, Councillor Plant.
Patient with me. Page 34, it mentions the Forth River crossing to the east of the city that's not being progressed. Was that the... I mean, at the moment, the big talk is obviously about a cycler and a footbridge. Is that referring to that, or is that referring to another?
No.
Was that another road bridge?
Yes.
Yes.
So obviously this strategy was written 4 years ago. It was included, and it was about a vehicular crossing.
Yeah. Scotch that one, yeah. Okay, moving on, sorry. And then on page 35, there says, contacts been made with the City Council about the development site at Gamston. A meeting took place on the 14th of February 2019. I'm presuming that was to sort of try and push that to actually take place. So is there any progress on?
So yes, the site at Gamston, as you are aware, is a complex site with county council, city council and private sector ownership. We are in discussions with city council about their piece of land and their you know, what they would like to see happen with that and the timescales for that happening. So I don't think I can say too much about it because it's commercially sensitive, but we are certainly working with them on trying to bring the site forward.
It's moving in the right direction.
Yes.
Right, thank you. Then on page 39, obviously it's about the reallocation of the streetwise. It's about, I mean, CVS, Rushcliffe CVS are in there as well. Sorry, 39, it's Abbey Road Depot.
Oh, no, the RCVS are no longer in the pump house. They've now moved to, they're in Cotgrave, in the Cotgrave hub.
know that.
When did they go there?
When it opened.
Yeah, they went in November.
Ah, right, well that's good, right, that's right, thank you. Sorry, moving on, page 40. The level of income generated through letting property owned by the council but not occupied by the council. Now, in terms of that, I mean, is that like a direct sort of profit? Because, I mean, say the point, I mean, I think it's in the budget, isn't it? There's going to be 20,000 spent on for the car park or something. So we might have these properties, but obviously we've got to maintain and whatever. So how is that figure broken down? Is that sheer profit or?
Is the value gross or net?
I believe it's gross. What we do, I mean, we can provide a breakdown because we have got that. Off the top of my head, I'm going to say it's gross, but I can take that back and check it for you. What we do is we've obviously got the management costs of operating the premises. So we have some staffing costs attributed. We also put a sinking fund in place, particularly for some of the investment properties. So whilst we're saying we need to spend X thousand on the point, we've got a line in the budget where we're putting some money aside each year, so that we've got this sinking fund that's building up. So this is part of the way we're doing our asset management strategy moving forward, that when we do come to ask for a capital sum, it's actually been squirreled away, if you like, from the income over the years.
So this is basically showing the income. So where is the cost of obtaining that income actually shown? Where does that appear? So that members can identify what the net income is.
Yeah. I don't think that's a figure that we have easily shown within the budgets, because we do the income, and then we don't operate a profit and loss account in the way that you might see in businesses. However, we do apportion costs against the different properties. So what I can do, I'll take it as an action if Charlotte doesn't mind making a note, is we've got the these gross figures, but we can extrapolate net figures. We are making income on the properties, and it's a good source of income for the council. So I want to reassure you, this is not all getting nibbled away.
Oh yeah,
by
I
the
know
costs.
that, but the person on the Clapham omnibus who was just coming out the rain, if it actually cost 1.5 million to achieve 1.3 million income, not good business, is it? So,
no, it's nothing
so
like that.
we need to, presumably, it's got to be shown somewhere, so that can be identified.
What of course you do find is that we've got targets, and we going up and up and up to meet the income, and we'll have a level of staff resource, and then you'll get to a point where you have to take on somebody extra. So there is a little step we'll go in, because we've got more and more complex property projects within the council than probably we've had for a long time, if not ever.
Yeah, which is all the cost of producing that income, isn't it? Councillor Plant?
I'm nearly there. Patience. Page 45 now. LIC060A. Contributions received as a percentage of current developers' contributions. 31.45%. So, where's the rest? And then the one underneath, the value of the future developers' contributions to infrastructure funding is 34.33 million. So is that the rest? Like the other 79%?
Okay, so the way 106 contributions work is that there's trigger points.
Just bring it in.
So they don't all come in at the start.
Right.
So I would imagine that's where the the percentages comes in, what we're expecting and how much has come in so far. And then the value of future developer contributions to infrastructure funding. There's a lot of developer contributions that have been allocated, for example, to the A52 improvements, but we haven't got them yet, either because the developer's not started or the triggers haven't been met. But there's significant amount of funding that's going to come in. If you want a bit more information on those two, we can look at that and just get a bit more detail around it, unless you can add to that, Charlotte.
No, I would have said the same thing.
Yeah.
But yes,
Yeah, we can.
Just say.